click the subscribe button and the notification bell next to it to get notifications whenever I go live. Hey, what's up, family? It's your man, Mark Black. So, first of all, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope you were safe. I hope you had a great time, made some money, got the bag, or kicked it, or whatever it was that you chose to do this weekend. I hope you did it and you did it big. All right. Peace, Grinch. Welcome to the broadcast, brother. Glad to have you, and thanks for the support. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, by the way, Grinch, to hit me up, man. I'd appreciate the love. I've got a goal of 1,000 subs by June. I can't do it by myself. I'm gonna need y'all's help with it. So if you haven't done so, please make sure to click the subscribe button. Make sure you click the notification button there so you can get notifications when I go live. I do broadcast every single day, Monday through Friday. And sometimes, if it's warranted, I might do something on Saturday. But Sundays I take off, not because I care about church or anything like that, or even football, just because I need one day a week to just do me, right? So yeah, but make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, like, share. If you don't like this shit, thumbs it down. I don't care. Everybody need haters, right? But give it one way or the other one, and let's get right into it. So, I don't know if you watched my broadcast Friday, but I hope that if you did, that it provided you with some optimism, because that was again easily one of the most positive broadcasts I've ever had an opportunity to do. Don't worry, more is coming. But today is gonna be a little bit more heavy, so to speak, right? Let me turn this stupid fucking phone off. That's what happens when you go live, family. Peace, Miss Denny. Welcome to the broadcast. Glad to have you. I know you at the plantation, or I'm sorry, at the job, getting that bag, right? So do what you got to do. But I'm glad to have you pop in and say what's up. By the way, if you're watching live and you haven't said what's up, pop yourself in the chat. You don't have to participate or ask questions or anything, but just let us know you're here. All right. So the title of today's broadcast, which I should probably put up here in the title part because I still have the old title from the last time. Let me go ahead and pop that up in here. Is Trump in 2020 status quo or real transformation in politics, right? And the reason why I'm discussing this topic is because already, family, you can start to see the fuckery occur, right? People already throwing their hats in the ring. Um, and this is important for us to discuss because of a host of reasons, primarily because of the 2016 debacle. I don't know about any of you who follow politics. Every black person, by the way, should be following politics. It affects everything you can have, say, be, or do. So if you're not following politics, you fucking up off, from the jump, right? From get. But in 2016, Trump's election threw a lot of people for a loop, right? It basically caused, people's political views to shift across the board. And a lot of motherfuckers scattered like roaches. And it's important that we discuss what happened in 2016 and what needs to happen moving forward as far as politics go, right? Because in 2016, let's just keep it a buck. Black people was blamed for every motherfucker. All right, we was blamed for the election of Donald Trump. You had some brothers who voted for Trump. I think it was roughly around 16%, 15, 16% of black men voted for Donald Trump. About 8% of black women voted for Donald Trump as opposed to Hillary, right? Um, First of all, I have to say that if you're shocked, family, let's say I'm not a party partisan, right? I don't have a horse in the race. So I can discuss both parties and say what the fuck I feel without worrying about being shamed by any of those, all right? But isn't it interesting that in 2016, the Democrats didn't even care enough about black people to put up a candidate we would even want to vote for? Isn't that interesting? Like, for one of the first times in modern history, there was literally, for black people anyway, no difference between candidate number one and candidate number two, as far as we were able to understand. Actually, though, that was the standard idea. there was actually a little bit more to it, a little bit more nuance to it, because unlike one of those candidates, one of those candidates didn't really say shit to black people, right? They did a little bit of dancing and and talked about hot sauce and this, that, and the third, and refused to answer questions about their spouse's espousal of mass incarceration for black people and so on and so forth, right? I wonder who I'm talking about. And the other one actually in the middle of his campaign did a speech discussing a platform for black people. So, like, this was a speech given directly about black people for black people. Like him or hate him, Trump was the only candidate in 2016 that actually did that shit. I'm just saying, all right? But in 2016, it was a shit show. First of all, on the black side of the house, we had this big stink about those people who voted as opposed to those people who didn't vote. There was a lot of shaming on the black side of the house. See, to my white viewers and followers, you wouldn't be privy to this. But on the black side of the house, it literally broke up into two armed camps. Those who voted, and those primarily voted Democrat that we were made aware of, and those who didn't vote at all, who realized that either the person we would want to vote for wouldn't get elected, or we just didn't want to vote for any one of the motherfucking candidates for president, right? So we abstained. We refused to vote. The logic on the no vote side was that neither candidate was speaking for really or to really black people, right? The American descendants of slaves in this country. And I'm going to get to that part, right? I'm going to get to that. So what happened is that in 2016, you had these, for lack of a better way to say it, these sheepdogs, people like Roland Martin and other motherfuckers of note that tried to use the deaths of some of our people at the hands of law enforcement, that used our ancestors and so on and so forth in an attempt to shame us into voting for the Democratic candidate, right? Because they, of course, wasn't saying go vote if your vote was going to count for Donald Trump. They were saying that you have to vote because if you don't vote, you're a disgrace to the race. You're a disgrace to our ancestors and all the efforts who fought, bled, and died for our right to vote, and all this other just emotionalist fuckery. It was absolute fuckery, right? As if people who had decided to abstain had no principles, nothing guiding them. They just was lazy as fuck and apathetic and said, fuck it, what's the point? Right? That wasn't the case. They had publicly made their stance known. People like Tariq Nasheed, and other people who were of note, who indicated that they would not be voting in the 2016 election, made it clear that they didn't feel that there was a candidate that was speaking to black people for black people, right? So it made no sense to vote. So there was a whole huge hullabaloo, big fuckery around the fact that some of us chose to abstain in 2016, right? I would like to throw my hat in the ring as offering some solutions to avoid that debacle in 2020, right? I would like to find a way to avoid that bullshit in 2020 for black. So, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the politics of 2020. Because, like I said, you already are seeing various people, mostly Democrats now, right? Because they're the party that's out of power, that are throwing their hats in the ring. People like Cory Booker, people like Kamala Harris. I'm hearing tale of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, putting together an exploratory committee to see whether or not she might run, and so on and so forth. And so I want to give us some ideas, some standards that we might want to look at in 2020 to make the determination as to how we should proceed politically going forward. All right. The first thing that I want to discuss is, and this is for black people. I don't give a fuck what white people do or what Latinos do or what any other demographic or ethnic group in this country does. I'm speaking to my people today. The first thing that I see on the horizon that would be a solution to our political ills as black people is we need to embrace the new tribalism, right? Every so called special interest group, every demographic, every ethnic group has an identification, an affiliation that they've held to or that they're holding on to that allows them to have clear interests that they define as a group that they then are able to bring before politicians as a standard, right? You saw that with the LGBTQ community. They wanted, not civil, was it civil unions and all that, but they wanted like legitimate marriage rights and to be protected in the workplace and all this and that and the third, right? So they came together as a block, right? As a demographic, a special interest group, and they put their efforts behind politicians that would advocate for those policies, right? You've seen some of that with the Latinos organizing around certain politicians who would emphasize like the need for immigration reform and DACA for the dreamers and so on and so forth, right? So you see all of these different special interest groups, all of these different demographic groups that are organizing basically as tribes to try to get their piece of the pie, try to get a slice of the fucking pie, right? To have full throated advocacy for their political goals and aims. Well, we as black people, unfortunately, have not braced that, right? We have not embraced the need for a new tribal affiliation. Now, there are many candidates out there for the new affiliation, right? You have our Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters who say we're all of the tribe of Judah and we should be, identifying as Hebrew, right? You got Team Indigenous who say we've been here since, before the whites ever even thought to show their face here on Turtle Island and we should identify all as natives and so on and so forth, right? And I'm not going to get into what I think of those particular identifications. There are black people who feel that we should identify as a specific group under those banners. I will argue that the one identification that we as American black people, I'm not talking about other diasporan Africans or immigrants from Africa. I'm talking about black people who are Americans. The one group or tribal affiliation that I can think of that would tend to unite the most of us would be the fact that we are, for the most part, the descendants of slaves, right? We are the ones who descend from the people that built this country. So I argue that in the need to define our demographic, right, to define who it is that we align ourselves with as a group, that black Americans who are native to this country should identify as what they are, the American descendants of slaves or American DOS. You've probably heard it referred to as. And this movement is growing. You have very strong proponents of this movement to identify based off of our distinct and unique lineage in this country. People like Sister Yvette Carnell, brothers like Antonio Moore, right? Tone Talks and others, right? But those are the two kind of big heavy hitter proponents for this new identification. And I think that this could work for us because of a couple of different reasons. One, it accounts for the truth. The fact is that the vast majority of black people who are Americans, who are Native American citizens in this country, are the descendants of the former slaves of America. That's just facts, right? You can argue archaeology and all this other shit like some people do, and that's cool, right? And if you think that the Hebrews have some claim because of the prophecies made in Deuteronomy and stuff like that. That's fine. Believe that. But as far as we know, the facts go that we who are alive today, who bear this, are the descendants of those who were enslaved in this country. So this identification has the chance to sweep in the largest number of us, right? Because any tribal affiliation or identification that we adopt has to be inclusive as possible to encompass as many black people as we possibly can. That's why I'm over here doing the black sheep thing. This is why you got your brother over here who's a mad ass black sheep, the social media pariah, because I'm sick and tired of all these particular individuals trying to outcast so many black people. When in point of fact, we need as many black people or people who are identifying with blackness as possible. I'm not talking about necessarily like transracial, quote unquote, people like Rachel Dolezal. That's a pale woman, right? We know this. Now, she could be an ally if she likes. I'm certain she considers herself as such. No, I'm talking about the identification of us as a demographic and an ethnic group. The reason why this is important, the reason why that this will be the game changer for us here in the United States of America is because as it stands now, we're kind of all over the place, scattershot when it comes to our political efforts. You have the vast majority of us corralled like fucking sheep in the Democratic fold. You have some of us who are broken away who are voting Republican. And then the rest of us are just simply either not aware of how politics works, so we don't give a fuck, or we're apathetic about how politics works and we won't participate. But that group is like the smallest, smallest minority group among us, right? Most of us, the overwhelming majority of us, vote D D D D D D D D D right down the ballot, straight ticket, blue, all the way down the ballot. You have some of us who vote red, and then the rest of us either don't know enough to feel comfortable participating in the process, or we know enough and we just don't give a fuck and won't participate in the process. But having that tribal affiliation, that identification as the descendants of our ancestors, right? I mean, it seems strange to me that we would have to even have this discussion of identifying ourselves as who and what we are. Most of us have family members. Now, as time progresses, those family members are slowly dying off and shit. But there's a lot of us who have family members who told us stories about Jim Crow, about the stuff that they suffered under Jim Crow. Some of us who were really fortunate had family members who were affected by slavery. They were born like on the tail end of it and stuff like that, who were able to tell their stories. Right? Slavery ended in 1865. We had grandparents who had family members who were enslaved. This shit isn't something that we make up. This isn't something that we're just putting on as an affectation. There are people alive today that know about people who or have spoken to people that were affected by both slavery and Jim Crow. Why would we need to have a discussion about identifying with something that we actually are? With identifying as those who descend from the former chattel slaves of the United States of America. Peace, Brother Charles. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey, by the way, I need to, and I hope you give me permission to, because, this is called respect. But there's a great plan that you and Brother Cerulean put together that I want to give some discussion to. First of all, I'm a veteran myself, right? So I definitely see the benefits of it, but I would like to have your blessing to discuss that here on my channel. So if you would honor me with that, right, I will definitely give some broadcast time to the Gray Faulkner plan. What? All right, cool. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. That's going to be an upcoming broadcast because If I understand it correctly, that whole plan right there is an absolute game changer. And I definitely want to make sure I give it airtime, that I give it space so that we can actually start to open up that discussion. And I appreciate you giving me a blessing on that, brother. And thank you for joining the broadcast. Family, identifying as the American descendants of slaves. No, thank you, brother. I have definitely appreciated it. Identifying as the descendants of slaves in this country allows us a multitude of benefits we don't currently have. You see, one of the things that came out of the 2016 debacle and will certainly be an issue moving forward. This is why the past for black people in politics is prelude. I hope you understand what I'm saying. The past is prelude. What happened in 2016 will only happen more in 2020. And it is imperative that we analyze, that we dissect what occurred in 2016 so that we can make course corrections. Black people in this country is a big ass boat. And even though we're not necessarily rudderless, if we don't start laying in course corrections, sometimes years in advance, it takes forever to turn that big ass ship just simply because of inertia. And I'm sorry, family, but the vast majority of motherfuckers that you will listen to on this topic will tell you the status quo. They will try to herd you like the good little motherfucking sheep you've been directly back into the Democratic fold, asking them for nothing, demanding nothing, getting nothing for your loyalty. And that needs to change. That needs to stop. And it first needs to stop with us with us ending this thing where we run away from each other and we start identifying under our distinct and unique lineage, our heritage. I am a descendant of slaves. My government name comes from the Irish, Scots, Irish motherfuckers what own my family. I traced it back. It's not like we can't know whether or not we're descendants of people that were formerly considered property in this country. Hell, most of us got family heritage or family stories, documentation, pictures, photos. You know what you are, and you can try to spin it however you like. Maybe the Hebrews are right. Maybe we are from the tribe of Judah, but I don't have any evidence of that other than some prophecies from the Bible if I accept that shit. But I have plenty of evidence of the transatlantic slave trade. I got plenty of evidence that over 4.5 million of our ancestors were considered human pieces of property. I got plenty of evidence for that. And I also have plenty of evidence to suggest that the vast majority of you native black motherfuckers here in America descend from those 4.5 million or so people that were freed in 1865. So can we cut the shit and actually start to organize around what we know to be true? Something that is a blanket, an umbrella that is inclusive of as many of us as it can get around. And that is the fact that we descend from the people who were formerly slaves in this country. The second thing that identification will bring us as a benefit is that, truth be told, family, and I know people will say, oh, you niggas is asking for the homie hookup or whatever the case may be, right? Let me turn this volume up. I just noticed that my volume was down way low, right? So let me boost this up a bit. Family, our ancestors, over 245 years, were responsible for building the largest economic engine this world has ever seen. The value of our ancestors' bodies, their flesh, blood, muscle, and bone alone economically at the end of 1865 was over $100 billion in today's money. Can we put that in a little bit of perspective here? Can you imagine if we were just remunerated with the value of our persons in 1865 and had that compounded from 1865 to 2019, how much our value, how much economic value black people would have in this country. Just think about that. Even if you compounded it at 1%, 2% interest, the economic value of our ancestors' flesh and blood alone would far outstrip any contribution of any ethnic group, of any demographic to the GDP of this motherfucking country, bar none. We would not be the poorest individuals in this country, lacking the most resources. We would be the wealthiest. We would be the wealthiest. Just on the economic value of our ancestors' personages. So we haven't even gotten into the fact of what those persons were able to generate as far as capital for this country. We're only talking about their bodies alone. If they were given the economic value of their bodies, and that was able to be compounded from 1865 to 2019 at even 1% interest, we would be the wealthiest group of Americans that exist in this country, bar none. That's number one. Now think about all of the intellectual property, all of the labor, all of the resources that our ancestors' bodies were able to take from raw capital, from dirt, and turn into productivity from 1619, depending on certain counts, to 1865. 245 years of productivity. Brother Charles said, not including the inventions we created in this country and the residual money owed. Facts. Facts. What about Jan Matzlinger's lasting machine? The reason why you motherfuckers even have shoes that are comfortable to wear. He was a black man who invented that. What about Lewis Latimer's theft of the filament that goes into the light bulb? Because Lewis Latimer is known to history as a draftsman for Thomas Edison. What you don't hear about in your schools and what they teaching you is that Lewis Latimer was actually an engineer in his own right who helped Thomas Edison develop the fucking filament that is responsible for the light in the light bulb. And he had that stolen from him because he was just a nigga draftsman. What about the black people that invented the motherfucking air conditioning system? Or black people that invented the motherfucking stoplights? I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, I know a lot of us use that shit as feel good. That black people are way better than, yeah, I get it, right? But I'm not talking about this shit because I want us to have a bunch of fucking feel good. I'm talking about it because I want us, as well as anybody else who watches this broadcast, to understand the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that our ancestors, the slaves that we are descendants of, was the economic engine of the United States of America. The raw materials generated in the South on these goddamn plantations were responsible for the financial growth of the finance industry and the industrial sector in the North. They were tied together like this. It wasn't the North was independent of the South. The South had so much power and slavery lasted as long as it did because the South were basically American aristocrats. They were the ones with all the motherfucking wealth. Built off of the blood, sweat, and tears and the backs and the labor and the stolen intellectual property of our ancestors. The North wouldn't be shit without the South. So while these Northerners try to spin history and say, oh, well, we was against slavery because we was about justice for black people. No, they wasn't. They saw a chance to give the motherfucking Southern aristos they comeuppance. That was all it was, because they was trying to break into becoming industrial centers. because they didn't have these large agricultural plantations in the North, although they did have a lot of breeding plantations in the North. Like in New York, they had breeding plantations, where they bought and sold us, and even if we was related or whatever, made us have sex with each other to breed more slaves so that they can buy and sell those slaves. Oh, don't talk about that shit either, right? When we call each other family, we may not know how true that actually is. Just saying. But I digress. The second benefit of us identifying as the descendants of slaves here in America is that we can press home our justice claim. This motherfucker owes us. Brother Charles said, don't forget the military might. We brought the U.S. in every conflict. Facts. Okay, name a conflict. Name a war. Name a police action. Name any motherfucking thing where there was American guns with American hands holding it. And black people was involved in every single one. We were involved in conflicts in America before America was even America. Ever heard of Bacon's Rebellion? Black people, free blacks, and indentured blacks, and even some slaves were a vast part of the Bacon Rebellion. That was pre-America. That was before 1776 and the Declaration of Independence, and before 1787 and the motherfucking Constitution. We've been involved in everything in America before America was even fucking America. I, as a veteran, served during the first Persian Gulf conflict. My uncle served during Vietnam. I had another uncle that served during Vietnam. I had relatives that served in World War II. There hasn't been a black that's been alive and breathing that hasn't had at least one of us serve in the military. We go and fight conflicts overseas. We defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, only to come back and be defeated by our domestic enemies. Ain't that a bitch? By identifying ourselves as a part of our unique lineage, our unique heritage, our rightful heritage, we would then have the capability to press home the fact that we are owed justice in this country. If you identify as a descendant of slaves, as a black person in this country, so many things that currently are hazy to you politically become clear as a bell. I'll give you a case in point. As a descendant of slaves, you wouldn't have no motherfucking problem with Trump's ass advocating for a wall to stop illegal immigration. Why? Because the worst affected people in this country from illegal immigration has been us. Bar none. We are the ones who are affected the worst by illegal immigration. Yet we out here caping for motherfuckers. Okay, so let me get this straight. Just as a sidebar, before I continue, let me get this straight to all of you liberal niggas out there who think you actually talking something that makes sense. All right? Let me holler at you for a minute, if I may. So my understanding is this. You live as a so-called citizen in this country, right? You have citizenship. You were born here. And as a citizen, being born here, you have birthright citizenship. So you are a citizen. Yet at every turn, this system has gone out of its way to deny you any opportunity for the fullest expression of your citizenship. No one would argue that. Not pale people or white folks. Not us. Not any sane us. Okay? So follow me for a second. So we, the descendants of slaves, have been denied the fullest expression of our citizenship rights under this country. Under what makes this country a country, we have been given essentially, a lot of cases, second-class citizenship. We have had our civil rights denied us at every turn. We've had institutions and systems put into place designed to keep us as one thing, the ones that are eating the failure.
while everybody else get a come up. Okay, so you wouldn't disagree with that in the least, I would imagine. So now you're telling us, those who have been fighting, bleeding, and yes, dying for the fullest expression of our citizenship as is our right, where our ancestors' bones are buried, that don't mean shit. That we should just be giving it away to everybody else, whether you Honduran or El Salvadorian or wherever the fuck else you come from. The citizenship that we've been fighting our ass off for now 16 generations in this country to utilize and obtain and practice, we're just supposed to give it away to everybody else as a free gift. Brother Charles said illegal immigrants undercut blacks for employment but will sponsor them to own businesses with tax exemptions. Look, Brother Charles and I and other black veterans are what you call patriots. We are patriotic. For better or for worse, this country is our home. This is where my ancestors' bones are buried. This is where their blood was shed. This is my fucking place. This is my home. So I'm supposed to give what I've fought and bled and died for to somebody who hasn't even established their willingness to be loyal to the motherfucking country that they come from. They have established no patriotism whatsoever for Honduras, for El Salvador, for Guatemala, right? As soon as times get hard there, were they rising up to fight and change and transform their countries to make it better? No. They just come here to get the bag. So I've displayed nothing but loyalty to a country that don't even fucking want me. Yet I'm supposed to be back in their play to come here and get the bag and show the same lack of loyalty, the same lack of patriotism when they come here as they did when they left their home nation. Fuck that. See, if you identified as the descendant of slaves, you would understand we should be right out there in fucking front with Trump saying the only question you should have as a black person about the wall is when is it going to be built and how high and how deep is that motherfucker going to be? That's the only question. That's the only question. Y'all are lucky I'm not president in this motherfucker, because if I was president, I would ban all immigration until the descendants of slaves get their justice claim and get their due. Fuck everybody else. American descendants of slaves first, and then any allies second, and then the rest of the nation, if we have anything left. Charles said that we black people should be hired to... Thank you. Oh, my God. Thank you. Let me tell you something. How many brothers we know out there that got general contracting businesses or that have been subcontractors on these large projects where you done had to serve under these pale folk? Nigga, you should be out there trying to find the process on the federal level to see how you could get involved in building that wall. Look, let's face facts, family. I understand that the wall is a dog whistle. I understand that El Chapo et Alia are just gonna dig under the motherfucker, right? I understand all of that. The wall is not to keep them out. The wall is a statement. A lot of times in politics, you have to draw a line. You have to make a statement. You have to say here and no further. Now, Trump, with his advocacy of the wall, is actually doing it the nice way. Because if I was president, I would just simply refuse to enforce any protection for anybody illegally coming across the border. I'd have an open season. If you live in Arizona, Texas, California, and all of those other states that abut the border, I'll be like, have at it, house. If they come across that motherfucker and something happens, oh well. I'm not prosecuting nobody. I'm not charging nobody. I'm not defending nobody using the Department of Justice. If you can't go through the process legally to come here and take advantage of America, fuck you. And that's just facts. But see, you're all confused, family, because you still identify as everything but your blackness. You still identify with everything but your lineage. If you understood just how immigration in general, but illegal immigration especially affected black people, then you'd be the last motherfuckers arguing for some open borders type shit. You would look at people like Michelle Alexander and be like, bitch, what? Who the fuck are you? You know, the same Michelle Alexander who we thought was the bee's knees when she wrote the new Jim Crow. See, that just goes to show you, family, just because somebody ride with us for a minute don't mean they ride with us forever. Because didn't she sure enough write an op-ed talking about that nobody deserves citizenship? So let me get this straight. I'm the descendant of people that built this motherfucker. Everything about America that makes it desirable to want to come here, my people are responsible for. But I don't deserve citizenship? I fought, bled, and died in every conflict in this motherfucker to maintain this motherfucker, to build this motherfucker, to grow this motherfucker. And been the least one to be able to take advantage of it. But I don't deserve it? Please. Family, you have to understand the first step for us is actually identifying just as who and what we are, because that right there answers some objections on the no vote side. The no vote proponents in 2016 among black people argued two things. One, that there was no specific black agenda, meaning, in other words, these national politicians wasn't putting together policies or putting forward advocacy for anything that would be a direct benefit to us. I'm not talking about this nebulous shit where a rising tide lifts all boats type of shit that a lot of the times the Democrats be on. They come up with these really cool little neat blurbs about shit like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's, Green New Deal and all this other shit, right? That's designed to try to attract votes that's supposed to benefit black people indirectly. Right? Because none of them motherfuckers want to say black. None of them, they're allergic to the word black. They're allergic to the word African American, which we not. We not African Americans. We are Americans. We are the black descendants of slaves in America. It's okay if you call me a black person. I'm not from Africa. I'm of African descent, but I'm not African American. I'm a fucking American. You call our brothers and sisters from the continent African Americans if you so choose. But see, once you identify with your distinct lineage, so many things become clear. So many things become clear. For example, you start to understand, not just in a political sense, in a political sphere, right? Charles said they threw away the black agenda for illegal immigrants, LGBT, and the Me Too movement. Charles, you want to see some fuckery? All you have to do is just go on Twitter or any other social media outlet and look at the tweets from the motherfuckers or the posts from the motherfuckers from the so-called Congressional Black Caucus. I haven't seen so much fuckery in my life. The very group of individuals that you would think would be on nothing but full-throated, full-bore, open-throttle advocacy for all things black in this country are talking about everybody but your black ass. They are talking about everybody but you. John Lewis, Sheila Lee. The list goes on. Just look at the Congressional Black Caucus. Follow the motherfuckers. Actually go and see the shit that they're talking about. They're not talking about you at all. At all. At all. They are advocating no policy that benefits you directly. They're not even talking about you. They're talking at you. Charles said each one of those movements are diametrically opposed to the upkeep and the uprising and the resurgence of the black family. So here's what I'm going to say on that. I got LGBTQ people in my family. They ain't stopped me from being a family. I'm not going to go into the gay agenda shit, the so-called LGBTQ agenda. Yes, they want to be treated like motherfucking people, and I respect that. And nobody wants to be treated like a second-class motherfucker. Now, this is not me advocating for people running out and just doing a bunch of gay and lesbian shit and changing their gender and all of that, right? There's specific reasons why people do that and engage in that. I'm not about to have that discussion. What I will say is this. There are advocacies, or I should say ideas that are proposed that are diametrically opposed to the rising, the growth, the enhancement, the buffing of blackness. And those agendas, those ideas do need to be called out for what they are. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. We need to start putting more of a focus on black men, for example. Every media outlet you go to is all black women, 24/7, all black women. If it's about anything black, it's all about black women and children. The whole Me Too thing was started by a black woman, Tawana Burke, although it got hijacked by white people quicker than a motherfucker. So did Black Lives Matter. Got started by the hashtag got started by 3 lesbian black women or whatever. So that shit was hijacked pretty much from the beginning. It stopped being about the people who are the primary targets under white supremacy, racism, whiteism, the black male, and started being about everybody but. If we start identifying with our lineage, we'll start to see that our brothers actually need protection. They need defense. They need full-throated advocacy. I'll give you a case in point, this whole R. Kelly thing. Everybody was talking about the sexual molestation and sexual assaults and all this and that R. Kelly was supposed to have done. And I'm saying alleged at this point because the motherfucker has not gone through a trial. He may be guiltier in his sin, but he will not be publicly tried over here with the angry black sheep. I won't fucking have it. Until they convict that man of something, I'm not saying he did shit. I'm saying he was alleged to have done shit. Because that is what it is at this point. Allegations, all right? But nobody talked about the fact that his own brother came out and spoke publicly, which is harder than a motherfucker for a black man to do, about the molestation that both him and Robert faced at the hands of their own sister. Nobody's out here talking about the fact that the sexual debut for black males can go anywhere from between 9 years old upwards of 11 years old as kids. Because why? When a black male is sexually assaulted or forced to penetrate, raped by a black woman, we consider that nigga lucky. Damn, son, you was getting pussy at that young? You the man. No, he's not. He was a child who was sexually assaulted. But see, because we can't organize together around our distinct heritage, everybody's just out there doing their own shit willy-nilly. Black women are going to try to get the bag for black women. They've been sold a bill of goods by feminism, so they're going to try to get the bag for black women and fuck the black men. If they have a chance to use black children to help them get the bag, they'll do that, but they don't even give a fuck about black children. Because why aren't we talking about the epidemic of child abuse in our communities, mostly at the hands of black women? If you say anything against this shit, though, you're woman bashing, right? You're blaming the victim, as if sisters are the victim of every motherfucking thing. How many sisters are they locking up compared to black men? You look at per 100,000, black women are somewhere in the neighborhood of about 120, 130 per 100,000 inmates being put in prison. And that's dropping because there's a movement to not even lock women up. Black men are nearly 10,000 per 100,000. But we can find a way to make We can find a way to make mass incarceration be a woman's issue? Are you fucking high? The three things black people don't care about: black boys, education, and being the heroes of your own narrative. Shit. Charles, why don't you just come over here and do this motherfucker? Because I couldn't have said it better. See, as an angry outcast, as the angry black sheep, I can say the shit your ass won't say. Because I ain't got nothing to lose. What are you going to do? Outcast me further? Take my black card away, my pro-black bona fides away any more than you already tried to? Fuck you. I ain't got nothing to lose. Family, on the political tip, because I could go on all day about this shit, believe you me. But on the political tip, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And no, the elephant in the room ain't the motherfucking Republicans. I really wish they would switch their motherfucking logos. Because the elephant in the room for black people is Democrats. That's right. The motherfucking blues. The Democrats. The asses. Actually, on second thought, they should keep their logo. These asses who come to you every political cycle with a bunch of sweeping rhetoric about yes, we can. Or for my Spanish-speaking black people out there, si se puede, right? We can do it all. We can have it all. All you have to do is just close your eyes, click your heels 3 times, and say, there's no place like the White House. There's no place like the White House. And you can have it all. They never actually tell you what it all is, right? They never actually give you specifics as to what they're going to do for you, right? They never say, it is time for one of our most hallowed, important groups of people in this country to receive justice from a nation that has spent so many decades and centuries denying them. If you vote straight down the ticket, our party platform moving forward with all advocacy being directed toward it is going to be a comprehensive remuneration, remediation, and reparations program for those descendants of slaves. That would be something. That would be dope. Fuck, at this point, if you could even get a Democrat to go on record saying that they're going to push to get clean water in Flint, that would be something. These motherfuckers don't promise you shit. Yet in every election, everywhere black people predominate, right down the line, you motherfuckers are like a one-trick pony. Like, I would love it. I really would love it if the Democrats would just come out and openly show their contempt to you by just simply not even having a candidate that talks to black people. I would like them to have a candidate where they be in front of all white people their whole campaign and they still get our motherfucking vote, just to show y'all how dumb it is to continue to throw your loyalty behind a party and a group of candidates that don't even speak to you. It's not even that they speak for you. They don't even speak to you. Did we really need to know whether or not Hillary Clinton liked hot sauce? Like, was that really of importance? Like, was it important to us that we know if that bitch know how to do the wobble? Right? I need some masculine energy in here on the mods. So, Brother Charles, you, sir, have been given the mission. You got the wrench. And I expect you to hold it down, sir. Right? The Democrats won't acknowledge reparations, education, or anything that will benefit black people, especially the black man or the black boy. Facts. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. How is it that they tried to get us to shade Trump because of his advocacy. No, brother, again, I appreciate you. Thank you. How is it that they were trying to get us to shade Trump for his public, full-throated advocacy of the first real federal level prison reform that we have seen in this country since the goddamn Omnibus Crime Bill of 1996, right? They tried to get us to shade him for that, while trying to tell us that Barack Obama did so much for prisoners under the federal system when he reduced the goddamn crack cocaine sentencing disparity from 100 to 1 to 19 to 1. He was the goddamn president of the United States. He could have simply just eliminated it by executive order. If you have cocaine, whether it's powder or rock, everybody gets the same sentences under the same terms. Signed, Barack Hussein Obama. I'm sorry, did he do that? No, he didn't. Yet, under the so-called Tangerine King, right, Imperator Trump the First, we got a bill that prevents harsh treatment of black female prisoners and shackling of pregnant women. You know, abusive tactics in prison. We got recidivism programs to be put in the motherfucking place so that when our people get out, we got programs in place to help them stay out. And the first year of funding is $10 billion for all you motherfucking black social justice warriors out there who hate Donald Trump so much. Again, where the fuck is your solution? Where are you with your plans to go and get some of that $10 billion to develop rehabilitation and anti-recidivism programs, to put money into your pockets and also to do something for our people? I'll wait. But we supposed to be throwing shade at Trump. He's supposed to hate niggas so much, yet he actually gave something that he spoke. He publicly, with a group of brothers and sisters behind him, said, I want this bill to benefit all Americans, but I'm signing it because I know it will benefit black people. Because for as racist as he is, and this is a fact, we know Trump's racism. Strangely enough, Trump doesn't have anything about any problem with saying black people. Not a problem. Like I said, of all the candidates, both D and R in the last election, Donald Trump was the only one that gave a speech denoting a clear policy, clear plans, clear ideas that would directly be for the descendants of slaves in this country. He gave an hour-long speech laying out at least 10 policy platforms that he would love to be able to pursue to benefit black people. Now, he even acknowledged, it's still not likely that you'll vote for me. But if and you do, here's some things I would like to see happen for you. Here's some things that I wouldn't have a problem with advocating for you and your people. He was the only one. The only motherfucking one. But we're supposed to be sheep herded into this whole thing where we sit here and chase down the next motherfucking Democrat that talks nice. The Democrats are the elephant, no pun intended, in the room, family, and we need to acknowledge that shit. Charles said, what about federal funding for trade school, black Boy Scouts to be a pipeline to military, education and house ownership benefits for the descendants of slaves? What about that? All great ideas. Or what about the Gray Faulkner plan, where we open up the doors of the military for brothers and sisters to get in, even if you've had previous felonies and all of that, as long as they were nonviolent felonies or whatever the case may be, you should be allowed to enlist in the military to get some job training in communications, nuclear engineering, science, supply chain management, and so on and so forth, where you can get access to educational benefits. I'm sorry, I meant to do this broadcast later, but fuck it. Let's do it now. What about the Gray Faulkner strategy? 100,000 black men, not women, not to say that y'all ain't important too, but 100,000 black men who are allowed to join all branches of the military to gain access to adequate health care for the first time in many of their lives. to be able to gain access to educational benefits through the GI Bill and discounts on college education while they're active in training, right? While they're active in service. To get access to VA home loans so that they can get these low interest to zero interest home loans for being able to purchase and acquire real estate, a land base. And not only that, but to develop discipline, perseverance, stick-to-itiveness, to develop all the traits that we need for our people to be able to build a platform to grow from. He said 100,000 for the military, police, and fire departments for 10 years. Facts. Oh my goodness. Peace to the elder, BGS. Welcome to the broadcast. And you're right. It's too fucking simple. See, when we come up with these really simple ideas, clear shit. Like I used to sit around sometimes and just think of what a potential reparations plan could look like. Here's a basic reparations plan that they could enact tomorrow that don't involve them cutting a single motherfucking check to niggas. Because that's the biggest beef that the white folks have with any possible reparations. So we just gonna give them money? Woo, 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 woo. Okay, so here's a reparations plan that don't involve cutting us no fucking checks whatsoever. Point number 1. Complete tax abatement for any business, land ownership, and all of that. Food, no taxes levied on any black person for the next 50 years. State, local, federal, no taxes. We have a complete tax moratorium on any black person in this country who is a descendant of slaves. No taxes. You don't pay shit for 50 years. No taxes, none, on food, land, your car, nothing. You don't pay registration, you don't pay tabs, you don't pay shit. All right? That's first. Number 2, free education across the board for all descendants of slaves from pre-K to post-doc. You pay zero. No student loans, no Pell Grants, no tuition fees, no book fees, no lab fees, any college of your choice. And I do mean any college in America. So if all the niggas want to go to Harvard, guess what? Harvard better build some motherfucking dormitories. Because any college we want to. No testing, no SATs, no ACTs, no motherfucking affirmative action bullshit. None of that. Any education that any black person who is a descendant of slaves wants to pursue in this country at any time during their life, from cradle to grave, no matter how many degrees, no matter how many times they want to go, is absolutely free. Costs nothing. Their books are paid for. Their dormitory is paid for. Their lab fees is paid for. The tuition is paid for. Everything is fucking paid for. No matter how many times. No matter if they've had previous convictions or not. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter even if they graduated from high school. Education from pre-K through post-doctorate for all descendants of slaves, absolutely motherfucking free. Right down the line. No cost. No cost. Goose egg, 90. Nada. And the last, and again, I haven't mentioned cutting no checks. I haven't said IRS got to cut niggas shit. All right? The last item that I came up with, and this would be a simple one too, would be free health care from cradle to grave for the descendants of slaves. I don't give a fuck if you need an MRI. I don't give a fuck if it's cutting edge cancer treatment. I don't give a fuck if it's experimental or investigative. If it's a medical treatment and black people want it, they get it for free. You don't pay no lab fees. You don't pay to go and get stuck by the vampires or phlebotomists. You don't pay for surgeries. You don't pay for medicine. You don't pay for shit. There's 3 things right there. We ain't cut not one check to black people. Not one. And those 3 things right there would change all of our lives beyond anything you've ever seen. That would actually be transformational. Let me go back in the chat because the brothers is getting it in. BGS and Brother Charles is getting it in. Woo! Let's look. Okay. So when you look at the strategy, it will actually save the government money, especially when it comes to prisons, the criminal justice system, rehabilitation. It will actually be a boon to black people. You know what, Charles? Here's the thing. I remember when I went to boot. I was a disgusting fat body. Even though I lost some weight to get in, I'm still a big cat, right? I was a fat kid, right? So my recruiter worked my black ass to the bone to lose some weight so that I met the standards to be able to get in, right? So when I got to boot, I was a disgusting fat body, all right? The moment I stepped off the bus, it was a full-on intensive 2-week period of very few meals and a hell of a lot of exercise. And at the time, I thought these motherfuckers was torturing me. Until my final PT test at the end of boot. And I ran 2 miles in 15 minutes and 54 seconds. Until I did 44 push-ups in 2 minutes, just banging them out. Until I did 80 sit-ups in 2 minutes, just knocking them out. Until I climbed Victory Tower, shout out to Fort Jackson. Until I'd spent 8 weeks doing shit that I never even thought was possible for human beings to do. I walked across that parade field at the end of those 8 weeks with my mother sitting there in the stands with my expert marksmanship badge on. I barely missed, master marksman by 1 shot. Fuck. Right? With all my little ribbons on that I earned. And knowing for the first time in my life that I was capable of anything. That alone, Brother Charles, I'm certain you would agree. That alone, the idea that a black man can feel like he is 10 feet tall, made of titanium and bulletproof and can accomplish anything he fucking desires to do in his life. That alone would be a game changer. But think about this. The order, the discipline, the structure that many of us brothers lack due to the atomization, the decimation of our fucking single mother-led households, right? We need to get rid of that shit soonest. And it ain't gonna be gotten rid of immediately if black men just decide to stay with the black woman. I'm sorry, but as a man who loves black women, I was raised by a black woman. My mother's black. All the women I've ever loved is black, right? All the women I ever looked up to was black. A lot of y'all ain't worth staying with at this point. Y'all bring nothing to the table except grief, drama, pain, triggering. Just reinforcing the same fuckery we went through as boys. Why would we want you? So if we're not choosing you up as of yet, right, how are we going to heal our families? Well, we start with the men. Y'all had y'all's shot. Y'all had y'all's turn, right? Y'all done had it all y'all's own way for like 50 years, and no black man gainsayed you, right? When they said that the black woman is the most disrespected and abused person in America, we black men, it was a black man that said that, Malcolm X, El Malik Al-Shabazz, right? We have backed y'all's play, been the wind beneath y'all's wings for generations now. And what the fuck do we have as a collective to show for it? Nada. We got decimated neighborhoods, completely atomized family structures. We have communities that look like fucking Beirut during the conflict in Lebanon. We have no property ownership in our communities. Nobody owns nothing. Right? If you're going to be in the hood, you're going to be in the projects, fine. At least try to own what it is that you got there. We make fun of third world countries, but guess what? Some motherfucking dirt farming campesino from Oaxaca owns more than you do. We've given everybody their own way. We're giving black women their own way. Y'all are women, hear y'all roar, and numbers too big to ignore, and all this other fuckery. And it ain't got us shit to show for it. Brother Charles said, how many young black men know that changed their lives for the better? Oh, yeah, most definitely. I mean, I credit the military with everything I am today. Well, I was also a Boy Scout, too, so I was used to some degree of structure, which means I really like your plan of taking Boy Scouts. And so instead of the school to prison pipeline, how about the scout to scout pipeline? Right? The Boy Scout to Cav Scout pipeline. I'm with that, right? How many of their mothers are telling them not to join the white man's military? You know what? I'm so sick of this shit. I'm so sick of all you so-called pro-black motherfuckers out there that advocate for everything that when on its face you look at it is anti-black as it can fucking get. I'm sick of dwelling in history. I don't give a fuck about how many black people built the goddamn pyramids in Kemet. I don't give a fuck about pineal glands and third eyes. I don't give a fuck about Illuminati conspiracies and who shot JFK. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. If you're not talking about how across every area of human activity to benefit black people right now and moving forward, I'm fucking done with you. I'm fucking done with you. And any sane black person should be done with you. White folks, listen to me. Because I know I got white folks who watch me. So I'm speaking to you now. Listen to me. It is bullshit that we do not understand what's happening to us and have ideas on how to better ourselves, to remediate ourselves. But you motherfuckers don't get a pass. Y'all are responsible, directly as well as indirectly, for where we are today. Now, we can bang on you 24/7 about that, and many so-called conscious, woke, pro-black YouTubers and other social media mavens do. I'm not going to. What I am going to do, though, is issue a call for action. If you think black people are so fucking bad, if you think that black people are just simply irredeemable, put your motherfucking money, your time, your efforts, and your resources where your mouth is. Prove it. Prove it. Back our play, right? Stop giving shine and trolling all these motherfucking so-called pro-black YouTubers out there that sit there and call y'all a bunch of genetically deficient, cave-dwelling troglodytes. By the way, Vincere, I'm assuming that's Latin, by the way, Vincere, right? Thank you for joining the broadcast. And yes, because wisdom is free thinking. Wisdom is looking at things with nuance. Wisdom is not just black and white. It's looking at all the colorful shades of gray in between. There are pale people out there who are slitting our throats, who are calling themselves our best fucking friends, i.e. liberals. But there are so-called racists, white supremacists, whiteists out there who got no problem saying black and might actually be willing to do something for black people. How screwy can reality be? You have one group of us that are telling us that everything white is to be discarded, to be fucked up, to be, it only makes you better as a black person to the extent that you diminish whiteness. Yet them same motherfuckers never have any plans for buffing blackness. Because I'm sorry, my job is not here to nerf whiteness. Do they need a nerf? Hell yeah. And if we get enough allies on the team, we might actually have a chance at not only buffing blackness, but nerfing whiteness too a bit. Because it does need a nerf. It needs a big fucking nerf. All right? Brother Charles said, black people show no loyalty to any political party but their own. You only wear the hat of whoever's willing to put in place policies that benefit you and yours. You thunder-stealing motherfucker, but I'm glad you did it. Here we go. Because the Democrats going forward in 2020, whoever they put up nationally, locally, state, or regionally, if they don't have at least one, and I'm not talking about they gotta go out there and break the motherfucking bank, right? I'm talking about one policy, full-throated advocacy of one policy that directly benefits black people. I'm not talking about people of color. Fuck all that. I am not people of color. I'm a descendant of the slaves of America. If the Democrats don't put one candidate forward, one that will advocate for one thing and talk to us directly, publicly, and say, I am doing this for black people specifically, then they don't deserve shit from us. As a matter of fact, I'm going out on a limb and speak on it right now. If the Democrats don't offer one national policy that speaks directly to black people in 2020, I'm voting for Donald Trump in 2020. Donald Trump has my insta vote. Yeah, I said it fucking publicly. If I can't get a single fucking Democrat to say black people, not people of color, black people, and have one fucking national policy that candidate is willing to speak full-throated advocacy on, push bills on, the whole 9 yards. BGS, I know how deep the thing is with the education of boys. I don't really give a fuck about what that policy is. No, I'm not saying I don't care about what you're talking about, BGS. Never that, brother. I'm just saying I'm making it as simple and as base as I can. If these motherfuckers can't come out and say one goddamn thing that they plan to do for black people specifically in 2020, one little slice or sliver of the motherfucking pie for us, fuck them. I'm voting for Donald Trump and I'm voting R right down the motherfucking ticket. Vincere asked me, what do you think about Trump's effort to implement prison reform? I liked it. I actually did a broadcast on my old channel where I talked about the prison reform bill. And BGS, I get it, man. Look, let me make it clear right now. When Kerry and other people who may be watching, I am not voting for Donald Trump in 2020. Let me make that clear. I've got a whole host of issues with Donald Trump. I got a real problem with the presidency being ran from Twitter, among other things. Call me crazy, but I actually kind of think that if you're going to be in that office, it should be somewhat dignified. That's just me. And I've got other policy issues and things like that I have an issue with Trump about. No. So I'm not voting for Donald Trump. I'm not voting for the Republicans. What I'm voting for is the status quo. I'm voting for more of the same. And there's a specific reason why I'm voting for more of the same, BGS. I'm going to get into it right now. The problem here in America right now, for everybody, but black people specifically, is that it doesn't hurt enough yet. For all the fuckery we think we're experiencing under the Trump administration and so on and so forth, it still don't hurt enough. Right? We still think that the Dems are actually against Donald Trump. They're not. When they're in power, they advocate for actually more of the same policies that keep us fucked up. It was a Democrat that voted the motherfucking omnibus crime bill into power. It was a Democrat who voted welfare, who instituted welfare reform. Right? It was a Democrat that reduced the amount of small business loans going to black-owned businesses to the lowest numbers seen under any administration. That was Barack Obama. All the fucked up shit that really happens to black people, I've seen it come from D's, not the R's per se. Shit, Shrub might have been an idiot, but after 9/11, he said, look, we Americans, cut them checks. Do you know how many black people was able to pay their bills, put some food in their refrigerator, be able to pay their car note, and so on and so forth, off them checks they got from the IRS under Shrub? I know it was only $300, but it was something, and it directly benefited my people. BGS, no. You know what, BGS, I hope you do a broadcast about it. I'll come and participate. I have no problem with that because this is what I'm advocating. I'm advocating for a motherfucking scorched earth policy as far as politics go. If we can't get anybody to have full-throated advocacy for issues that benefit directly black folk, then I want us to start pushing on policies that spread the failure, that spread the hurt to everybody. BGS, I know you understand my strategy. I know you understand what I'm saying. I want us to share the motherfucking pain with everybody else. If we always have to be the ones that's suffering, the ones that eat the motherfucking failure, if we're the ones who are the outcasts, the ignored, that nobody wants to ever fucking talk to, that they can advocate for everybody else and their mama except for us, fine. That eventually is going to come back and bite all Americans in the ass. So if we can't get transformation, then why pretend to have anything but the status quo? If we actually can't get real transformational government out of politics, then I'm just going to be on some Bane shit. So here's the thing, BGS. I don't think it's systemic failure. I really don't. I really don't. I really don't. But do I think that black people specifically, but Americans in general, need to feel a little bit more of the burn before they actually decide to get their motherfucking heads right? Yes, I do. I'm not talking about watching the whole thing collapse per se. That's a possibility. I can't sit here and discount it. So your objection is valid, right? You're right. Systemic failure is not an option. But I don't believe we're at the point yet of systemic failure. But what I do believe is that there's a hell of a lot more hurt that can happen that hasn't happened. I can argue that, BGS, and I'm certain you can argue the same. There's still a lot of motherfuckers, regardless of what's been happening, that's still eating, that's still getting their little come-ups. I got my own ideas on that, BGS. We're gonna have to chop. We're gonna have to chop. Because, believe it or not, we're not as far apart in this thing as you think. Ben Carey said the Dems promise you much around voting time, but deliver very little when it's meaningful. So do the Republicans. Well, actually, I take that back. Republicans don't much promise us anything except more of the same, right? Okay. Well, we know the devil we got. Right, I'm sick of the high-flung pie-in-the-sky rhetoric that never seems to get translated into anything real on the ground. I'm not voting for Trump in 2020. I'm voting against the lack of a real agenda, against transformation. If we can't think enough of black people to actually put together and hold some motherfuckers' feet to the fire on a real transformative policy shift, real actual change in the government, Mark Black. Thank you, BGS. I'll be more than glad to participate in that, my brother. Mark Black himself advocates, then just let it ride. If we can't get transformation out of it, then spread around the hurt as much as you possibly can. I realize people disagree with that. But I put it like this. At some point, we will have to address the fact that we have very little, if any, political representation in the government, both on a national level and most times local and regional as well. I'm not certain, because I'm not a prognosticator, I'm not a prophet, I'm not certain what it will take to get black people to understand that politics will be one of the most important things that we pay attention to moving forward. But that has to happen. And I know that change is hard. Most people don't change unless they're forced to change, unless they have to change. So I would argue that as we spread around the hurt, as the cuts go deeper, as more people lose their livelihoods, as more special interests get cast out to the wayside, like we have been, that perhaps we might have a space to create some sort of allied unifying structure that allows for a sea change for black people specifically, but where everybody can get a little piece of it too. When Kerry said only support people that are willing to work for the people, not the special interests. Again, both sides have been corrupt for quite some time. It fucked me up when I looked at 2016, and in my opinion, and in most of the opinion of most of the people that were watching the election, that it didn't really seem to be much difference at that point between the D's and the R's. I'm not speaking for whites. I'm not speaking for Latinos or Arabs or Dot Indians or Feather Indians. I'm talking about for black people. For us, 2016 was a choice between Mephistopheles and Beelzebub. There really was no difference. And yeah, BGS, I'm definitely down to participate in that. You just shoot me the link or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to try as best I can to do what I always do, which is bring the facts, bring my information, present a cogent argument, and then we can have a debate about the topic. Because at least this broadcast is doing what I hope it does, which is creating a dialogue for my people. When Kerry said that the DNC argued in court that they could nominate anyone they liked, they could literally go back into a room and smoke cigars and choose whomever they wanted without regardless of fairness in the process. I got a whole host of issues with the DNC. You know, the whole super delegate thing. We could go into it. The whole super delegate bullshit where basically whoever gets king made by the DNC basically already has a bunch of motherfucking votes in their pocket without even having to primary or deal with anybody. Yeah, fuck all that. My point is that, and I'm keeping it simple for my family, because politics essentially breaks down to this. Politics determines who's getting what cut of the pie, who's getting a slice, who's getting what size slice. And I would argue that we have been sitting there helping to bake the pie, putting in the ingredients, you know what I'm saying, stirring up the butter for the crust and all of that. And then when it comes time to slice the pie and divvy it up, we don't get shit but crumbs, if that. That's got to stop. Now, is my plan the way? Maybe, maybe not. I'm willing to have that debate. But without a clear agenda, a clear set of policies being put forward by the motherfuckers specifically that black people have tended to give their loyalty to in droves, which is the Democrats, without a clear fucking policy platform from them and full-throated advocacy publicly in 2020 of something that will directly benefit the descendants of slaves, they ain't getting my motherfucking vote. Not a one of them. Not a one of them. I'm not voting for the R's. They haven't earned my vote. I'm doing a protest vote against the D's. If we can't get transformation, fine. I want the status quo. Better the devil I know than the devil I don't. I'm not about us in 2020 sitting here as black people going back and forth across social media arguing over the equivalent of how many fucking angels can dance on the head of a pin. If we can't get tangibles, if we can't get a clear agenda, if we can't get clear policy declarations publicly from national leaders, from regional leaders, from local leaders, then fuck them. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So I've made my public stance. That may change depending on the conversation that I have with my esteemed elder and my brother BGS. But for right now, in 2020, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting against everybody else. I'm voting for the fucking status quo. I would like to see, in my opinion, more motherfuckers feel the love. I would love to see more Americans feel the love. I'd like to see more Americans realize just on what side they bread is buttered on. You can't get and advocate any degree of justice for a people who have been nothing but loyal, who have been nothing but supportive of this country, who are the greatest patriots this country will ever know, because most of the pale people here are descended from motherfucking immigrants who came over here and hoovered up the benefits of what my ancestors laid down and then got the nerve to tell us we don't get no benefits from it. Fuck them. No. No, not no more. Not in 2020. No more of the debacle from 2016. We need to organize around our lineage, black folk. We need to organize around our lineage. We are the descendants of slaves, and we need to shout that to the rooftops. Whoever we have traditionally been given our loyalty to politically, the motherfuckers need to now show improve. We need to ask, who are they? Because look at the candidates that they putting up. Kamala Harris isn't a descendant of slaves. She's part Indian and part something else. Right? And Cory Booker, while he is, I believe, a descendant of slaves, this motherfucker actually had the opportunity to take advantage of a unique position that many of us didn't. Right? Read his story. He admits that he got a help up, a hand up. But he ain't necessarily putting no full-throated advocacy around making sure that other black people get a hand up. Look at his baby bond proposal, how that's supposed to be for all Americans, when the creator of the baby bond, Dr. Sandy Darity, actually made it as part of a comprehensive remediation and reparation, a part of a reparations program for black people. The baby bond is not going to fix what's broken with the gap between black wealth and white wealth. It won't. But Cory Booker will be coming at you, talking about how you need to vote for him, because he's going to make sure that when your kid grows up, your kid's got an opportunity that no other, and he's going to sound just like Barack Obama because he's been training. He's been practicing. And the shit going to sound good because you know we like motherfuckers that talk good. Look at the policies. Each one of these people that they're putting up so far as the Democratic front runners can advocate for everybody and talk about every subject and find some way to not say black. Let them keep doing that shit. Let them keep doing that. I vote for more of the status quo. I vote for more of the motherfucking same. Maybe when it hurts enough. And I'm not talking about systemic collapse. No, BGS is right. We're not ready for that. And if that is as close a possibility as I think my elder brother might be intimating, then I need to be more responsible in what I'm saying. And I'm certain we're going to have that discussion. Because like iron sharpens iron, right? You know what I'm saying? So does one brother sharpen another one. I look forward to having my birds knocked off by my elder. When Kerry said Trump recognizes that economic opportunity is key to lifting people out of poverty, he's working hard to create jobs, which is working with record employment across all communities. You're right, BJS. I've heard you. When Kerry, I actually think that Trump is making some moves that, if my people are smart and we parlay it properly, could be a direct benefit to us, like the economic zones in our communities and things like that. I know that there's a whole heap and gob of avenues for gentrification and more fuckery for my people. So don't think that I ain't looking at that too, and Kerry. I know you're arguing for Trump, all right? And I get that. I expected to have some people come here and say, yeah, I should be voting for Trump. No, he's got to present a hell of a lot more than what he has so far for him to give full-throated support from Mark Black. But that being said, has he done some things that are suggestive that could lead to direct benefits for me and my people? I won't take that away from him. Yes, he has. And BGS, yeah, you're right. The chessboard does say a lot. Protect the king. I hear you. I'm right there with you, BGS. Like I said, I don't think we're as far apart on it as you might think we are. And I get your concerns. You have valid concerns. If we are close to the systemic collapse that my brother seems to think we are, and that in my more how would you say, my more pessimistic moments, I tend to think we are. Thank you, Carey, and you are welcome. I hope you stay. I hope you subscribe. I hope you share, and I hope you like. Again, I'm not going to yeah, because I'm with BGS on this one. I think he's making moves that he has to make. I don't know if they're ones though that are necessarily working out to the benefit of my people. I got my eyes open. That's all I'm gonna say on that, right? I am watching Trump. Unlike people who want us to throw shade at him and just dismiss him out of hand, I'm doing what a sane, rational, intelligent human being is doing. And I'm simply observing his actions. He has plenty of opportunity to establish clearly where he stands in direct relation with black people, with the descendants of slaves in this country. He doesn't need you to advocate for him, although I appreciate your advocacy for him, right? I'm simply saying that I can watch him. I can see. I don't have to listen to his rhetoric. I can watch. If he makes moves, thank you, BGS, and I'll make sure that I go there and see if I can participate on that, right? So I'm watching, right? And we all should be watching. No matter who's in power, who we give the keys to the kingdom to, we should be watching them. Yes, Charles, Drill Sergeant is hushing my face. So with that said, family, I'm going to go ahead and call this one. All right. First of all, I want to shout out Carey, going from bottom up, Carey and Brother Charles, my esteemed brother Elder BGS, who I'm actually gonna give a wrench to because, like I said, we need more masculine energy over here. All of my moderators before today was the sisters, right? So yes, BGS, Sister Denny, right? Let me keep going here because y'all was going in. Let's see. I want to make sure to shout out the Grinch God who showed up, and anybody else. If you were watching this live, go ahead and pop your name in the chat. I want to shout you out. I want to thank you for the love and support. Again, family, over here, I'm Bernie Macking it like a motherfucker. All right, I'm gonna say the shit that most people ain't willing to say. I ain't gonna all the time be right, but I will say this. I will have principles behind what I say. I will have a logic chain that you can follow behind what I say. And like iron sharpens iron, I'm here to sharpen and be sharpened by my people. All right? And all of you white folks, pale people who support what we doing over here, who thinks I'm actually from Missouri, Carey, but I live in the Pacific Northwest currently. But for all of my white folks who listening or whatever, stay a while. Learn yourself something. Participate in the conversation. Leave comments. You're not being outcasted over here. As long as you ain't trying to white splain shit, be disrespectful to my people, and insert yourself as the center of conversation, we would love to have your support and your allyship over here as Angry Black Sheep. So until the next time, family, I'm going to close it as I always do by wishing all of us love, peace, prosperity, and power, real power to my people.